Welcome to the untamed frontier, where legends were born and the gun was law. Out here, respect was earned with calloused hands, a steady aim, and the grit to face whatever howled in the night. It was a time when men carved their names into history with sweat, blood, and gunpowder. Today, we delve into the lives of 5 infamous gunslingers who left their mark on the Wild West. Men forged in the crucible of a wild and unforgiving land where survival was a daily gamble and reputation was everything. They were both heroes and villains, their legacies intertwined with the dust and the legends of a bygone era. So saddle up and get ready to ride with us as we journey back to the untamed frontier, where justice was as swift as a bullet and life was a gamble every sunrise. Born Henry McCarty, he would become a legend under the name Billy the Kid. He was just a kid himself when he first tasted the life of an outlaw. Some say it was the times that made him that way. The loss of his mother, the constant moving, always on the run from something or someone. By the time he was 18, he was already a wanted man. A whirlwind of gun smoke and stolen cattle, his youthful face hiding a cold steel nerve. His name, whispered in saloons from Santa Fe to Silver City, inspired fear and fascination in equal measure. Billy rode with cattle rustlers and outlaws, always one step ahead of the law. He lived fast and dangerous, a fleeting shadow in a Stetson hat. The Lincoln County War cemented his reputation, a bloody land dispute where Billy proved he could shoot with the best of them. Newspapers painted him as a cold-blooded killer, but some whispered of a good heart beneath the bravado. A kid forced to grow up too fast in a world that knew only violence. But every outlaw's luck runs out. Sheriff Pat Garrett, a former friend turned lawman, finally caught up with Billy in Fort Sumner. In a darkened room, the lawman's gun flashed, cutting down the kid at the age of 21. Billy the Kid, a life lived fast and furious, extinguished like a match in the wind. He became a legend, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires, a reminder that even in the Wild West, youth and speed were no match for the cold hand of fate. Jesse James, the name echoed through the smoke-filled saloons and the dusty streets of the West. He was a Confederate raider turned outlaw, a symbol of defiance in the face of a changing nation. But was he a cold-blooded killer or a folk hero, robbing from the rich and giving to the poor? The James Younger Gang, led by Jesse and his brother Frank, became the stuff of legends. They robbed banks and trains with a brazenness that captivated the nation. Newspapers devoured their exploits, turning them into Robin Hood figures, fighting back against the railroads and banks that many saw as symbols of greed and corruption. Jesse, with his piercing blue eyes and quiet demeanor, became a symbol of the lost cause, the Confederacy that refused to die. His exploits were romanticized, his crimes overshadowed by the image of a Southern gentleman turned outlaw. But the law always catches up, even with the most cunning. In 1882, betrayed by one of his own gang, Jesse James was shot in the back, his legend forever frozen in time. Did he die a martyr, betrayed by those closest to him? Or was it the inevitable end for a man who lived by the gun? Whatever the truth, Jesse James's name continues to resonate, a reminder of a turbulent time in American history, a time when the lines between hero and outlaw were blurred by gunpowder smoke and whispered legends. Wyatt Earp. The name conjures up images of a bygone era, a time when the West was wild and justice was often served from the barrel of a gun. He wasn't a lawman by trade, not at first. He drifted from town to town, trying his hand at gambling law enforcement, even buffalo hunting. But it was the badge that ultimately called to him, the heavy responsibility of bringing order to a land where chaos reigned. Earp carried himself with a quiet authority. He wasn't a flashy gunslinger, but he possessed a steely gaze that could disarm a man faster than any Colt revolver. His reputation preceded him, a whisper that followed him from Dodge City to Tombstone, a reputation built on nerve and an unwavering sense of justice. Tombstone, Arizona Territory, a boom town fueled by silver and stained with the sweat and blood of miners and fortune seekers. It was here that Wyatt, along with his brothers and the enigmatic Doc Holliday, would face their destiny. The Clanton Gang, a band of ruthless outlaws, had Tombstone in a stranglehold. They were a plague on the town, and Wyatt swore to break them. It all came to a head at the OK Corral. A dusty lot behind the photography studio became a battleground, the air thick with anticipation and the smell of cordite. 30 seconds of gunfire, a blur of movement, and when the smoke cleared, 3 men lay dead, and Wyatt Earp had cemented his place in history. He was never a true lawman, some say. He lived on the fringes of the law, his methods as rough as the land he sought to tame. But in a world where justice was as fickle as the desert wind, Wyatt Earp stood tall, a symbol of order in a world spiraling towards chaos. Doc Holliday. The name itself sounds like a paradox, a juxtaposition of healing and hurting. He was a dentist, trained to mend and repair, yet he found his true calling in the saloons and gambling dens of the Wild West. Consumption, a disease that gnawed at his lungs, drove him west, chasing dry air and the hope of outrunning death itself. He was a walking contradiction, a gentleman with a wicked temper and a tongue as sharp as his gambler's wit. He was as comfortable discussing literature as he was facing down a man in a poker game. But beneath the veneer of sophistication, Doc Holliday was a dangerous man, his skill with a gun only surpassed by his cold-blooded nerve. He was a ghost, pale and gaunt, haunting the saloons and gambling halls, his cough a constant reminder of his own mortality. But those who mistook his frailty for weakness learned a harsh lesson. Doc Holliday was lightning in a bottle, a deadly storm hidden behind a calm facade. His loyalty was as fierce as his temper. Wyatt Earp, a kindred spirit in a world gone mad, became his closest friend. They stood together, back to back, facing down outlaws and the demons that haunted them both. Doc Holliday never sought out trouble, but trouble seemed to find him. He was a gambler who played the hand he was dealt, even when he knew the deck was stacked against him. He lived fast, loved hard, and died young. His legend etched in the annals of the Wild West. Wild Bill Hickok. The name itself evokes images of the Wild West, a time when legends were forged in the crucible of gunsmoke and grit. He was a scout, a lawman, a showman, a man who lived life on his own terms and stared down death with an unwavering gaze. He was a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered and imposing, with a flowing mane of hair and a handlebar mustache that seemed to bristle with danger. He cultivated his image, his legend, knowing that in a world where reputation was everything, perception was often reality. Hickok was a crack shot, his skill with a pistol unmatched. He was said to be able to shoot a man's hat off at 20 paces, and his quick draw was the stuff of legend. He was a hero to some, a villain to others, but never less than captivating. He drifted from town to town, a restless spirit seeking adventure and leaving a trail of stories in his wake. He fought in the Civil War, rode with the Pony Express, and even dabbled in law enforcement, bringing his own brand of justice to the frontier. His life was a tapestry woven from fact and fiction, a wild yarn spun in saloons and around campfires. He was a larger-than-life figure, a man who seemed to embody the spirit of the Wild West itself. But even legends meet their end. In 1876, while playing poker in a saloon in Deadwood, Dakota Territory, Wild Bill Hickok was shot in the back. He was holding a pair of aces and a pair of eights, a hand that would forever be known as the dead man's hand. Wild Bill Hickok, the Prince of Pistoleers, was gone, but his legend lived on. He became a symbol of a bygone era, a time when men lived and died by their wits and their trigger fingers. He was a reminder that even in the Wild West, even for the most legendary of figures, fate always held the winning hand. These gunslingers lived and died by the gun, their stories echoing through the annals of history. They were products of their time, shaped by the lawlessness and the untamed spirit of the frontier. They were both flawed and fascinating, their lives a testament to the enduring allure of the Wild West. Their names, etched in the collective memory of a nation, continue to fascinate and inspire. They remind us of a time when life was simpler, yet more dangerous, when the line between right and wrong was blurred by the dust of the trail and the smoke of gunpowder. Join us next time as we uncover more tales from the Wild West. We'll delve into the lives of the lawmen, the outlaws, and the pioneers who tamed the frontier and left an indelible mark on the American spirit.